So it looked like Caitlin Clark is being blamed for the epic fail for the WNBA.
Adam Silver has now told WNBA teams they can move forward with free agency offers even as the CBA sits in total chaos. That's the NBA commissioner effectively cutting through player leverage and signaling to owners that the league will not stand still. At the same time, players and media are pointing fingers at Caitlin Clark for negotiations falling apart, a narrative that reportedly pushed Silver to his limit. The same league that rode Clark's star power to a $2.2 billion media deal is now turning her into the scapegoat for its own dysfunction and mismanagement.
Players pretty much hate Caitlin Clark with a passion, and I'm here to tell you right now, the hate is growing even stronger because many people in the Players Association and people in the media is blaming Caitlin Clark for potentially being the one holding out when it comes to
how delusional do WNBA players have to be to blame the one person who saved their league for their own inability to negotiate a functional labor agreement. Adam Silver runs the NBA and oversees the WNBA as part of that responsibility. He's watched the women's league struggle financially for decades while the NBA subsidized operations and absorbed losses. Then Caitlin Clark arrived and everything changed. Viewership exploded. Attendance surged. Merchandise sales shattered records. Television networks committed $2.2 billion for broadcast rights. That's real money. That's transformative money. And it's money the WNBA never even came close to before Clark showed up.
Fired. And this whole thing is backfiring on these players to the point where they couldn't even get a response from the owners. The owners are saying, let's move on free agency. They're trying to stop people from signing. It is a mess.
Now the CBA talks have completely unraveled. The deadline passed with no agreement. Players are demanding major revenue sharing based on recent growth. Owners hesitate to lock in long-term money off one extraordinary season. Union leadership carries glaring conflicts of interest tied to competing ventures. And somehow, some players and media decided Caitlin Clark is the problem. Not the negotiators. Not the unrealistic demands. Not the structural flaws. Clark, who's barely involved in the process, is being blamed for everything collapsing. Adam Silver's response said it all. He told WNBA teams to move ahead with free agency preparations despite the expired CBA. That wasn't a suggestion. It was the league office making it clear they're moving forward with or without union cooperation. Under U.S. labor law's status quo rules, the WNBA can issue qualifying offers using the expired agreement's terms while talks continue, handing ownership far more leverage than players ever seemed to account for.
No. I feel like there has been a major disconnect between the commissioner and the players for a long time. And then if you have a star like Fee coming out and saying it, you know that it's really an issue. So I'm glad she did it, and we all supported her in it. We didn't know she was gonna do that. That was like
some gangster shit.
Yeah, I loved it. Especially again.
But where has it gotten you now? What benefit has it done? Kathy Engelbert is not fired. You guys are not getting this 30% rev share and a $10.5 million salary cap. What benefit has all this mess brought to you guys? You don't have a deal. You're still under contract for next year. What benefit has this actually brought the players? That's what I'm interested to know.
The union statement claims owners are still committed to undervaluing player contributions. That's the official line. The league secured $2.2 billion in media rights off unprecedented growth, yet ownership supposedly refuses to pay players fairly. What that narrative avoids are the uncomfortable questions about how that growth actually happened and whether it survives without the specific player who created it. Blaming Caitlin Clark for the CBA collapse is strategic scapegoating. She's the perfect target because she isn't part of union leadership, hasn't made public demands, and represents everything certain players resent about the league's recent success. If talks fail and the season is delayed or canceled, pointing at Clark lets others dodge responsibility for their own failures at the bargaining table. The hostility toward her throughout her WNBA career has been well documented. Physical play that crossed the line again and again, flagrant fouls that went unpunished, veterans complaining about preferential treatment while also criticizing her salary. The jealousy was obvious to anyone watching. Now that same jealousy has found a new outlet, blaming her for labor negotiations she doesn't control.
Now, as it was in 2024. In the summer of 2025, Did First Take talk about any women's basketball? They talked about any of these sports shows. They talked about the first Angel Reese vs. Caitlin Clark game. They talked about Caitlin Clark against Liberty.
Clark brought millions of viewers into the WNBA, delivering audiences the league had never come close to before. ESPN poured unprecedented coverage into women's basketball because of her. Arenas sold out nationwide when the Fever came to town. Her jersey became the best-selling item the league has ever seen. Sponsors who had ignored the WNBA suddenly wanted in, and that surge created the financial reality making today's CBA talks possible. Without Clark's impact, no one would be discussing major revenue sharing or dramatic salary increases, because the league simply wouldn't have the money to support them. The leverage players think they have exists only because of the growth she generated. Yet she's now being blamed for negotiations collapsing because some people can't reconcile benefiting from someone they resent. Adam Silver telling teams to move forward with free agency is him calling the union's bluff. Players assumed rising revenue guaranteed leverage, but that leverage evaporates if Clark leaves or if a delayed season sends viewership back to pre-Clark levels. Owners understand this far better than players do. They're willing to wait because time isn't on the player's side. The status quo period allows the league to operate indefinitely under expired CBA terms, meaning free agency can proceed using old salary structures. Players may refuse to sign, hoping for higher caps and better terms, but the fact offers can still be made shows ownership isn't desperate. Nafisa Collier serving as WNBPA vice president while running Unrivaled only worsens the situation. She publicly attacked WNBA leadership while promoting a competing league, then watched that league post disastrous ratings once it became clear fans weren't interested without the WNBA's biggest stars. Now she's back at the table trying to appear reasonable, but her credibility is gone. That conflict of interest poisons the entire union position, and blaming Clark for the fallout is absurd. Free agency is frozen with most of the league becoming unrestricted free agents because contracts were designed to expire before 2026. Players expected new terms by now. They didn't happen. So careers and team plans are stuck in limbo. Kelsey Mitchell's situation sums it up perfectly. Her future with Indiana should be simple, yet it's tangled in league-wide dysfunction. The Fever built something real with Clark, Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, and their supporting cast. Fans responded. Playoffs happened. Momentum was real. And now it's all uncertain because negotiations stalled. Yet somehow Clark is blamed. The tweet suggesting she could indirectly end the WNBA is delusional. She's the reason the league is more viable than ever. If talks fail and a season is lost, that's on the negotiators, not the player barely involved. Adam Silver has watched the WNBA lose money for decades while the NBA covered the losses. He saw Clark create a breakthrough moment that finally brought real revenue and mainstream relevance. Now he's watching that opportunity get wasted through infighting, unrealistic demands, conflicts of interest, and scapegoating the very person who made it possible. His patience is clearly wearing thin. Allowing free agency to proceed despite CBA chaos is a message. The league will not let union leverage stall operations or rewrite history into Caitlin Clark ruined the WNBA. Owners know what's at stake. They know ratings collapse without her. They know sponsorships depend on sustained growth, not one magical season. They know the foundation is fragile and tied directly to the audience she brought in. Players who spent 2 seasons treating Clark poorly are about to learn painful lessons about leverage and consequences. Their earning power exists because of her impact. If she decides Europe offers a better future or simply walks away from the dysfunction, everything collapses and she'll be fine while others aren't. The inevitable 30 for 30 will document how the WNBA